introducing you to a sphere of myth. And I think these are kind of what these things are doing. Like from just like not knowing what it is and then moving along, we're kind of entering a space of like the images, the primitivist touches, the materials. I mean, it's not answering all the questions, but it brings you into a place where image operates at a mythological level. And I'm interested in inviting you into that space. And then, in the center of it, creating the stage. And maybe, provoking the question of what is the stage? What does it do? What does it do to these elements? So there are like these figurative elements, and there are like these ad hoc, temporary, in-process situations that respond to the architecture and kind of bring you back to the building, but are changing it or remaking it into this mythological space, but also putting it into this ad hoc state, like the work in progress, the in the making, which are important words for me. Like, the kibbutz, which is it's a live thing, but this is like mostly a historical exhibition, and it's not as if this leads to that, but like here's one example that we're mostly thinking about in historical terms, like a 100-year-old movement that we could go back to and learn a lot from, and in a way that's many times what I'm doing. I'm looking at this, but I'm interested in now, and I'm interested in tomorrow, and what I make. So actually, even if I go to myth, like the kibbutz for me is some sort of a myth, or so I'm kind of working through this myth and trying to generate a new myth and creating this site for a strange ritual. Yeah, should we move on?
Yeah, so I was thinking maybe we would start with Oded Hirsch's work and then Elisheva's work, and then we can finish with Ohad, because I think people still have a lot of questions about his work. So Oded actually arrived this morning from Israel, and he was going to be here, but he just was so tired he had to go back to his hotel after the 18-hour plane flight or whatever it was. But as you'll see, we have the two videos installed facing each other in the media room. And there will be two benches. There's one there now, but there'll be two benches so you can face either video. And there is some sound bleed, which is almost intentional. It's not, the sound is really sort of atmospheric, so it's not that important that you hear the exact sound that's going with the video. And we have, so 50 Blue is on the left side, and that's the video. I think everyone's seen the videos, right? So that's the one where his brother is pushing his father in the wheelchair, and then he gets hoisted up into the watchtower. And then Tochka is on the other side, where the members of the kibbutz are building a bridge together. And so each video is about 12 or 13 minutes. I don't know if on a tour you would just sort of ask people to watch a little bit of it. And
yeah, we talked about approaches for that.
And then the photographs on the outside are photographs that he took while he was filming the two videos, so they correspond with the video that's on the inside.
Are they intentionally timed, or is it just coincidental when they start and stop?
Oh, that's so.
Or is it because I was there before and there was like a fire burning in one video and then the fire started burning in the other video.
Huh?
And for a minute I had to remember that there were fires in both videos, and then I was like, see, did he put the fires in as a theme? And then we haven't talked about that, and then so are they intentionally timed?
No, they're not intentionally timed that I know of. I didn't put the videos in, but I think they were random.
And does he know that they're being shown in the same space like that back to back?
Yeah, he does. Yeah. We actually originally were going to do 3, one on that wall, and he was like, that's too many. It's not going to work. So we decided to just do the 2.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so then over here we have the 3 photographs, which which he was telling me is just, he's just finishing, which is called the tractor. So members of the kibbutz get a tractor, bury it, and then dig it up again. So again, it's this idea of everyone working together to complete a task, but there's no obvious outcome. And this video that he's making is actually a bit different than the earlier ones because it's black and white, and he also is having a soundtrack of music that's being made specifically for the video. So that might be just something interesting to tell people. No one's seen the video yet because it's still being finished, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll be able to screen it here or something like that. That'd be cool. And then I don't know if we told you about this over here. Is something that the education department kind of conceived of, which they're going to be these blank cards where you can write your name and your age, and then it says to draw or write your own utopia. So there'll be pencils, and people can do a little sketch or write something about what utopia means to them, and then hang it on those hooks. And we'll kind of change them out, and ones will get put on top of each other, and then I think the education department's maybe thinking about making something with them in the end. So just a nice way for visitors to be able to participate at another level. And then we have Ellie Sheba's work here, which turned out beautifully. She did many tests to figure out exactly how to make it work. So you can see these are metal sheets that end kind of where that top bluish gray color is. And so they're magnetic, and we're actually kind of reinstalling the magnet bins right now, so they're not exactly as they will be. They were a little too high for everyone to reach, so we lowered them. But there are hundreds of different magnets, and people can take them and sort of build their own idea of utopia on this kind of pastoral vista. And do you want to say a little more about that? This is Ellie Sheba.
And we're so thrilled that you're here and that Ohad's here. Oded's not here, but just it's so exciting for all of us to have the artist here. So thanks.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, so this piece is about utopia as an imaginary place that's really open to interpretation. I was thinking about Thomas More's book, Utopia, and how he coined that Greek word, and it means no place. So it's a place that doesn't exist, but that we can conceive of, and maybe a place where real-world problems are solved. The piece is meant to be participatory, as Dean was saying. The idea is that it's like a child's toy, or color forms, or Legos, or architectural building blocks, where you have pieces or units, and you use them to create your own vision. So something is provided, and yet you can build on it and interpret it in your own way. The magnet designs they're very eclectic. Some of them are architectural. Like this is based on a window from a synagogue in Prague. This is Japanese slats. But it doesn't really matter what specifically the reference point is. The idea is just that they're drawn from many different sources, many different places, many different eras, and they can coexist if somebody chooses to put them up here. And then another idea that the piece tries to get at is one of collective action. So there are many different individual contributions that all end up working in concert to create some larger tableau, some larger scene. And there's no set program, so it can grow organically, and I don't know what it will end up looking like.
Are pieces removed?
So I'm not sure yet. I think not. I think we're going to see what happens, because if it gets really densely full and there's no room for people to keep activating it, we might have to clear it off. But to start with, the plan is just to leave it open and continuously growing.
Will it be documented, photographed? What happens?
Yeah, I think that we're going to document things, and then there are, on the instructions that are on the vinyl on the wall over here, there's a suggestion that people take their own photographs and upload them to Instagram.
And photography is allowed in this entire gallery.
What about touching? I mean,
These are
obviously you can
magnets,
tell
yeah.
here, but
So,
here.
We'll talk about it.
yeah, there's the painted scene, and then these are the magnets that you can manipulate.
Do you anticipate that people will move magnets that have already been put up, or are they?
They're allowed to. I'm not sure. I don't know what they'll do.
Is there going to be instruction that people should not take them off?
The only instruction, the instructions that are here, there's just 3 steps. Choose some magnets, find an empty spot on the wall, create your own model of utopia in the landscape. So,
And I mean, we'll be checking in on this like every few days to make sure people haven't like thrown magnets all over the gallery, or you know that it hasn't gotten super crowded, that there's still room for people. And we'll figure out maintenance kind of as it goes along, because we just don't know how many people will put up magnets in a given day.
It might be interesting to have time lapse every so often and see how it.
How do you see us using this wonderful landscape here? I mean, because it will take people time, so should you stop and let them have the time and then proceed, or say, come back, you know?
I mean, my instinct would be to say come back when the tour is over and spend some time with it on your own, if that's something.
Yeah, or ending here, I think, is not a bad idea.
We also talked about ending.
Yeah, you could end in any of the 3 pieces, because there's something to do, kind of in an unfacilitated experience in each of the 3. So it's
Right.
choose your own adventure.
I thought we talked about starting this piece.
We talked about starting there too.
Starting
Yeah, I
with
mean,
this,
I think,
yeah.
you don't want to lose your visitors. On the other hand, maybe you encourage them to each choose one piece,
Piece, and-
put it on the wall, maybe you talk about it for a minute, and then if they want to do more, they could come back.
I have actually a technical question. Someone had asked me about this. For the magnets, did you draw them on using a computer program, or did you draw them by hand, or how?
Yeah, it's a combination of drawing them by hand and scanning them, and manipulating an Illustrator and drawing in an Illustrator.
And there's also a work on the other side, which is visible from the window, and you can also walk around and look at it from up close, approaching Utopia, which is an allegorical figure of Utopia surrounded by flags from activist movements. And it's looks like a paint by numbers. It hasn't been completed, so it's sort of that idea of a work in progress, and some Utopia isn't completed yet. It's still something that we're working towards.
What is the central figure? It's just an allegorical figure meant to represent utopia, yeah. I mean, it's sort of a trick, because it is modeled on the sort of imagery that you might see in a state house in Rome or something, the victory figure flanked by flags, but then instead of being national flags, they're flags that represent movements and ideas. And then there's this whole aspect of it being unfinished, and so it's that kind of calls it into question.
Are these pieces on laser print?
They were, I had them produced by a professional magnet printer. Yeah, so I think they were digitally printed and die cut.
So we can move on to Ohad's work. So kind of as we discussed, it's based on a stage. It's based on the idea of kind of a gathering place for people to come together. It does function as a stage when we have the activations, but it's also a sculpture in and of itself. And people can walk on the stage, they can walk off here, wheelchairs can come up this way. But we don't want people to touch any of the artwork, unless they're participating in a specific activation. So I know that might get a little bit tricky, but just to try to encourage people, to walk
So Jean, I don't mean to belabor the point, but let's be specific about what we can and can't touch. So even if you're on the stage for an activation, you can't touch the sculptural elements in the back, correct?
Right, I mean, you
Okay.
shouldn't touch, yeah.
Okay, and if you're in an activation, you can touch the costumes.
Right.
Any visitor can walk across the
Any
stage.
visitor can walk across.
Okay. The reliefs, if you're participating in an activation, I mean, I know that OHAD welcomes anybody to touch them during an activation. Personally, I would feel more comfortable if it was the facilitator or one of us, a tour guide, but
We're only activating one, right?
but if you're leading an activation, you can put one up.
You can put one up.
Yeah. Did I cover it all? So costumes, people can't touch the costumes unless they're like putting them on as part of an activation, right?
What are the reliefs made of?
Concrete.
They are actually concrete.
That we'll double check with him, but I'm pretty sure. Okay, is that,
No, it's not clear. It's not clear. What's touchable, what's not touchable?
okay, so,
That is,
okay, so there's still, wait, can I just get everybody's attention for a second? Can someone hold this so we have it on camera, but I don't have to hold it?
Back here. Yeah.
The educators will lead activations during school tours. I don't think any docents
Not yet?
didn't come,
You-
well,
when
we had a
did you-
training today.
Oh. we
But
didn't
nobody
know
told me
that.
they were interested.
Interested.
2 people told me,
Oh.
but they didn't come.
I said, but I
So-
didn't know that it was.
Okay, so we can redo it, but, so, Jean, the answer is maybe, because some people didn't know about today's, so, right before this.
Wait, yesterday was an optional, and what was today?
If you want to do the activations after the public tour, there was a training, but nobody, Rini told me she was interested, and Shira told me they're interested. So, anyway, we'll do another training, because, okay, if you can, you can't, whatever. But educators will be doing them as part of a school tour, and some docents may elect to do the training. So let's go through what's okay to touch and what's, I know it's boring, but it's important. But walking on the stage.
Walk, you could walk on the stage, you could walk around, you're allowed to walk on the stage. And you could take a poster, and you should tell people they can sign up to the activations. Which are a separate thing and not necessarily the epitome of this project. It exists as a piece.
Where do they sign up?
They don't actually have to sign up. They come after the public tour.
12:30 every
Yes,
day?
the activation is like one aspect, but it doesn't not necessarily the best way of doing it. It's another option.
Okay. So,
What about on Thursday?
So just to give you kind of a sense of what the activations are, we have them scheduled at 12:30 after the public tours, and it sounds like we'll also have some during school tours. So people would congregate here. They're going to be led by a CJM staff member, the ones that come after the public tours that have been trained.
or if a docent wants to get trained,
Or a
we'll,
docent if they want to get trained. So what would happen is we only want 7 people on the stage at one time, just for safety reasons. So if it's smaller than 7, then we can have everyone participate. Otherwise, we would divide it into 2 or more groups of people. And together we would pick one of these reliefs, which start in 1967, the year the artist was born, and they're kind of each one represents a year. And there's a poster over there that has the basic instructions as well as each year and a word that corresponds with it. So you pick one of these, put it on the stand. We would ask the guide to do that. And then people would go over to the costume rack, which is over there, and choose one of the costumes to put on. Some are more elaborate than others. There's some where you have to put your legs in something, and there are other ones that just sort of tie behind your back. And there are actually little tags in the costumes, so those sort of will show you what it looks like generally. And you can try and match it up with the relief that you chose, but it doesn't have to be exact. That's just supposed to be more of like an inspiration. And then the people that are participating would get on the stage and pose kind of as like a tableau vivant, living sculpture, and hold that pose for a minute. And I think, Ohad did a really good job of describing it, how this moment is kind of a moment for you to take and reflect, and it's kind of like you're daydreaming almost. And a minute when you're frozen in a pose with other people on a stage actually becomes like a longer time than you feel like it might be. And so it's sort of about asking people to really move into an active space instead of just being a passive viewer. By stepping onto the stage, you're part of this sort of intimate event where you're interacting with others, even if it's just for a short period of time. So then after that's over, we would ask the person guiding the activation would take a photograph of people posing as a sculpture. And that would be sort of our documentation of the event, and then everyone would just put their costumes back. And it's a way to kind of create a dialogue with this small group of people who maybe have nothing in common, or maybe they all came to the museum together. So it could be all sorts of different groups of people that will talk about what utopia means to them, and maybe in an Israeli context, as Ohad is looking at it, or maybe they don't have any connection to Israel and they're looking at it because their parents were hippies on a commune in California. There are lots of different approaches that you can have to thinking about utopia, and we're just kind of hoping that this will be a moment for people to reflect and instead of just kind of moving quickly through the museum as people often do, just stopping and really thinking and becoming a part of the artwork in a way.
Ohad, can you share some of what you shared with the earlier group about kind of your ideas behind the piece and the piece in general, but also the activations?
I'll try.
Okay, sorry, repeat performance and late in the evening.
Could you move a little closer?
Yeah, I'll step on my stage.
Yeah,
that's true. I do video and installations, and I basically do these two, mainly do these two mediums because there are these amazing containers that can take a lot of stuff in them, and I, as opposed to, I don't know, like a photograph, which is like one thing, there's like 24 frames per second, depending what system you're working with. In a film, you could throw a lot of like images and frames and spaces and words and music and stuff. And installation is kind of like a parallel to that exists in space. And I originally started doing installation. The idea of dealing with these mediums is the way that they offer you to deal with complexity. And like the situations that are not clear-cut, black and white, you can't say something about them like, this is that, and this is not that, and actually being able to say something and then put it in context of another thing and create, and still try to, this is going to make your life a little difficult because, the people that you're going to be guiding usually are intimidated by museum spaces and they want to know this is about that. So you're in the front line, and I'm kind of, admiring for doing that, because I'm putting this here and I run away. Feel the confusion and this sense of like this thing is a provocation of a lot of questions, and at the very center of it, actually leaving an empty space, like dealing with the entrance, surrounding this with all of these images, creating a backdrop, having all of this stuff around it, but leaving a void in the center. Has to do with my understanding or my utopic understanding of a museum, or what a museum could be, should be. I would want it to be the Chederoche, like the main dining room, which was mentioned here, and it's kind of relevant because it's been an inspiration for me with my question for what could the museum be. And the main dining room of the kibbutz, except for eating, had this multi-function room at the center of it that would host a whole sort of it was this empty space that would host weddings and you know, holiday, you know, like special holiday rituals and all sorts of, you know, like member discussions and fights and everything. And it was, you know, like a place for a lot of cultural production that happened in this place. In a very vague sense, this is what I have in mind, that I come into like an empty white box and think, what do I want this to be? What could this be? When I'm presenting a model, and I think Claire was talking about the kibbutz as a model, and maybe that's a relevant connection between these two things, because if we are talking, and I'm interested in now, and I'm interested in tomorrow, if we are interested in utopia or models for utopia, what would a model for utopia be? Like, how do you work on that? How do, like, models are these great things that allow you, I don't know, to talk about something, like, you know, like talk about the world in future tense. Architects put a model and then they talk about it. So my model of utopia for the museum, for Israel, for, like, you know, like, has this open, empty space in the center, which is an invitation for action, to be filled. This group thing, like the kibbutz is something that calling together thing, or kibbutz is also you know, the word group is so being in the making together, and I'm creating a site for that. A site that invites some sort of a communal making. My idea of utopia has a lot to do with the stage. It's a very, very special place, the performative place where people step into the stage and step into this active mode, away from passive viewer into an active participant, and having this dynamic relationship with your identity. It stops being something that oppresses you. You can say, I'll be that. But you realize that there's room to play with it. Well, I don't want to be a macho. Well, I'll be that. So this little step that happens here just has nothing to do with an activation. Just as a viewer, like stepping here onto a stage is a really, really meaningful place. It's the element for me. And I'm trying not to go too far. I'm not coming from theater. I'm a sculptor. I've got no idea how to deal with time and, you know, stuff. But I'm really interested in this possibility of, like, stepping onto the stage and stepping into performative area and kind of mixing this relationship between passive and active. And I'm thinking about, and I'm still thinking about an intimate way. I'm not interested in the spectacle of the theater. I'm interested in this transformative moment that has to do with this 6 inches, which could happen in so many ways, you know, like a camera designates a stage. Like, there's all sorts of ways, but I'm designating this empty space that calls for action. If I am to think about what do you do, okay, so here we are in a group, I'm inviting people to do stuff. What do you do? I am the guide of that thing. I need to provide some sort of guidance. Otherwise, we just step on the stage and it's the most awkward thing. The world of participation is like, oh no, please don't make him call me onto the stage. This is a horrific moment. So I need to provide some sort of like a simple framework of action for that moment, so you'll be able to be there and reflect on it without getting into this horror. And also, I'm interested in taking this notion of utopia as something that, you know, like it's somewhere there, there's no place. I actually wanted to ask if it's possible for you to make something now. So I'm providing my own very open-ended script, or you know, like sets of like storyboards, or set of actions that could be responded to, or followed, or interpreted on that stage. And I'm defining, I'm asking people to step up on the stage, or inviting people. Nobody has to do that if they don't want to. But I'm inviting small groups of people to make a 1-minute dance on that stage. And my dance is is a static dance. You don't need to move, but you have to think about it in terms of dance. It's like bodies relating to one another or within themselves, within a still sculpture. So it's a sculpture, it's a dance, and it's architecture, it's all of these things together. So we're doing this freeze moment as a group, like this, creating this ad hoc, short living moment on the stage. I think we shouldn't go too much into the activations because, you know, like these are an element of that, and I don't think that's necessarily the only. I mean, I want people to look and think about this. This is a mechanism to create some sort of a strange theater, like some sort of a strange ritual, like people will be standing here like that at certain moments. But it's not as if that you have to participate in it to think about it. But I want you to think about theater as a mechanism, like the museum as a place of invites, like this empty invitation as something. These, the 67, beyond being the year I was born in, it was the year of the Great Israel. I mean, I was born into the Great Israel, the expanded Israel. And in these images, each one is like picked up from a different year, from like, you know, things that happened, I've heard about and thought about in this new big Israel, mostly in these new territories that became Israel. 67 is the year where like the torch of, in the way I understand it, like the torch of the kibbutz is this ideological movement that's been given to like a new ideological, like a small ideological, a highly ideological group, which in their eyes continuing the project of the kibbutz. They have been abstracted. I'm trying to make from my utopic idea of the museum, the Jewish museum, is a place where we could figure out a place to have a place to be able to maybe start the conversation that actually includes this reality or an expanded reality and not just looking backwards. I'm trying to do it in the softest way possible, and I do not have, you know, I'm not trying to impose any ideas like, so I'm providing a place and some tools and a very abstract and open-ended. So you can't really tell, and these are from, you know, like based from my own knowledge. This is not historical fact in any way, but this is what I'm thinking about. My utopic state, I mean, if the kibbutz utopic state in the Chadarocha would be really utopic, this is the stuff that would be reenacted there and thought about. And can the museum provide a place to do that? Can we start this conversation? Then we're doing utopia now. Then this is on the list. So that's a tricky thing. And different groups have different opinions, and I'm like trying to come up with this complex mechanism to figure out a place to start a complex conversation, which I have great hopes in the museum as an institution, and in the Jewish museum as an institution, and I'm super excited that you know, like to be able to do this here, because it's not a little thing. This is it's your prerogative, because you're going to be. It's your prerogative. I'm leaving it for people. I'm bringing you to a space of myth. I'm thinking we have to kind of rework our myth to be able to continue this story, because I'm very much interested in the continuation of this story. But we need to work on it. I'm proposing a place to work on it, and I'm trying, in a way, it's your goal to call things by their name, or to let people understand what they want to do, or to stay at a totally abstract level. But it is a place to start a conversation, or to figure out where the start exists. I know it's a lot to ask, but we're not going to do it. So, yeah, if it starts a conversation, it's great.
And each conversation should be related to whichever block is chosen.
You know, I propose this model of start if the activations which are kind of almost technical in nature, so you could just do them and they're short. But the idea is to try and pick, like start by, like looking and pick one up and try to think about the relation, like, the body relationships between like, what's happening, or landscape and body relationships. So yeah, you want to focus in one of them, but by focusing in one of them, you're kind of scanning some of them. The list of words that we've printed this year is like another thing, like every year has like a word, like 67 is crossing. It's very open. I'm not trying to make any kind of political provocation. But I am a believer in this place of conversation. And so, using the word, not using the word, if you feel that it's a group that's way too out there and you anticipate, or you don't feel confident, or this is not what you think, pick one that you feel nice with. Like, don't let them pick the word. And now we're going into the activations. And basically, by setting up this mechanism, I'm inviting to have like some sort of like a live monument here for this all-around project. Yeah.
How do you envision the relationship between the backdrop and what's happening in the stage?
Here?
Yeah, because
It's a pretty busy one.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a sculpture that you experience from inside. It doesn't really matter how it looks. You get a picture, so you get an indication and things to memory, but you experience it from inside. You're inside the group, you're inside, like you're daydreaming for like in terms of like what do people do during these things. You respond to that, and then you're kind of standing. I'm interested. Steve Paxton was like a 70s director, the choreographer, American, talks about he made this still acts or still interested in like non-movement as part of dance, and he was interested in the fact that when you don't move, you actually start noticing your body move without you, and you become an observer of your own body forming. And this is an interesting perceptual shift that I'm interested in, that's relevant to be on stage.
Should we try one and learn from each other?
I think we're going to do, you guys are going to run another one that's devoted to the activations. You should let people know that they are invited to sign up for one of those. Because we just had, I don't know.
I think if you're done, I'm happy to help like lead people through one. But if I want to give, maybe everyone can ask. We can do like a little Q&A, and then can we stay, Jean, for a few minutes just to try an activation? Okay. Questions? So if you want to stay and try out an activation, we can, and I'll help facilitate. But questions for Ohad while he's still here.
The colors, there are many colors here. Do they have any meaning whatsoever? If they're colorful, these are very dark, they're red, green, and white, blue.
I come from not using colors at all, and gradually I've added colors into the work, and once a color kind of stays in, I can do, like my palette has been expanded, and I realize that I've been making artwork for more than 20 years now, so I have pretty substantial colors. They're mostly primary colors. Usually the accents of the material, which is like the thing that is the first thing that's really important for me here, the sense of the material, its raw forms of concrete, aluminum, plywood, nothing kind of like high-end, like do-it-yourself type of stuff. The colors could have symbolic meanings or not. How do you read those colors?
Do I ask my guest? What do you get? What's your association to those colors?
That's a relevant question. That's a relevant question. Like there's a piece with flags on the other side of that wall, the middle is flat colors. not only Palestine, right? It's like Egypt and Syria, these are all like red and you know, like looking at that, and Sheva is talking about utopia, this no place. And this no place, this empty place, which I've talked a little bit, it's become a little bit of a problem with Israel, like the Israeli project. Is imagine this no place and then realize there are like some other stories that it's not. So yeah, not to get too far into that, but it's a relevant association, but also this from like $1 store stuff.
I know where it is from. Like,
You know, that's
we started with the white and blue and you put something on. So.
Yeah. Yes.
Does the taking off and putting back on of these costumes have relevance to you for the whole piece?
Putting on a costume is somewhat equivalent to, you know, putting a mask on, like entering the performative space.
But I meant visually, because when they're taken off here, it's a different visual image, and it's going to be changed every time they put it back on.
It's changing. Yeah, there's an element of it's not fixed, like, you know, it looked different, you know, an hour ago.
Is there any special significance of that aluminum left?
This thing?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, and there would on the monuments in every city there would be a monument, like the Day of Memory. You know, when we were doing like the still thing, you cannot use the context. You could not think about like the siren and like the still, like in memory of the dead soldiers or the Holocaust. So it would be two soldiers or two kids guarding the monument. There would be a fire going, maybe inside of like a helmet or something. Then they will be standing there like a little bit. We'll be surrounded by symbolic language and stories that we tell image. None of it, you know, like, and even the colors, like, none of it is red, but this is that and this is that. I'm like throwing things in the thought in order to create this and then leaving it open-ended so people could make something about it, could use it. Like, I'm telling a specific story of what this might be, but it could also be, you know, if it's an invitation to play, I can't tell if this is an all. It doesn't work the way you reenact Star Wars, where everything is. This story cannot be told. It's not just a Star Wars story. The good, the bad, even Star Wars.
Other questions?
With your activations here, like some of the reliefs have only like 2 characters.
Yes.
Some have more. Would you?
They would be duplicated. So you
okay.
Like,
So
you cannot like, formalize what's the essence of the relationship between the figures, where's the conflict, what's the hierarchy, and then you could replicate some of the figures.
Do you feel comfortable taking some of us through one?
You should take us, because you've
But will you stay here and like add to it and, okay. Great.
Because, you know, I'll take it to myself, and I have my own political agenda, and I think I've gone too far, but you know what, you guys should find the right place.
No pressure. Are we going to film this or not? When do you want to film this? Okay. So, okay, I'm going to do my best to like channel what I learned 2 hours ago. No, I think my sense from our group is that we'd love to have you here because of your personal connection to the piece. But I'm also sensing that you seem like you're maybe done for the day. So,
I was just not thinking of this as like the forum for that, and you know, like it would be more valuable for me to see how you're doing.
okay, we'll jump on in. I think the group needs to almost do it to get it, to understand it, and since they didn't get a chance to go through it. Okay, so let's say on our tour we've gone through, we've looked at them together. Does someone want to choose a piece that we're going to look at today together?
Is that what would happen, Janine, when you do the activation? Because originally you said somebody from staff would come.
Okay, so
And-
let's say your tour's over. You've toured this piece.
Yeah.
You've explained that the artist sees this piece activated, and if you come at the end of the tour, you know, you'll have a chance to participate. So I'm starting at that moment. So it could be you, it could be someone coming in following your tour. So let's choose one. So let's everyone just make sure you take a good look at it first.
Oops. Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna do that. Okay, so let's just talk about it for a second. What are you noticing about this?
Three people with their arms raised and some sort of homage.
3 people with their arms raised. Sherry's feeling like it's maybe homage.
I don't know if it's facing another figure that usually is seated, important.
Okay, another figure that looks like it could be seated. Other things that are standing out for you about this?
Well, it looks like the one on the right is much larger than all the others.
Okay, one larger
So it has a
figure.
Very large presence. Like, important.
Okay, so maybe a sense of importance, a sense of homage. There's a contrast between those 3 other figures and the larger
And
figure.
maybe some tools, maybe they're holding tools or there are tools.
Yeah, some things up there that could be tools, something that's being raised up. So I want to just keep all of that in mind, and I'm going to invite, would anyone like to help me come on the stage and activate this piece? What we're going to do is we're going to choose some costumes, and we're going to do our best to take on the pose of this image. So Daisy,
The word that is.
you know what? I'm going to model it. I'm going to use the word. I'm going to introduce the word later. I don't know what it is. I haven't looked. So, so I think you could do. We asked him earlier. We could do it either way, but I'm going to wait. So Daisy, who else? Rini. Anyone else? We need. Come on, at least 4. Judy. So go pick a costume, and we can help. Anyone else? One more person.
There it is. You get to all right.
Because I think it's, well, if I were to do it, I would share it with them later. I think you could do it either way, but I don't want everybody to know yet. So that's just how I would try it. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was interested in costumes, and I think I'm putting it on backwards, but
I don't think there's
too
a
bad.
backwards or forward.
This is hard on the looks. Anyone else need Rini, do you need help?
Well, I'm trying to think about my.
So, these kind of.
One more person? Neil, you want to do it?
I can tie it up this.
All right. Everything Claire was inspired by the costumes. I love your whole top.
Yeah, there was.
Okay, so once you've got your costume on, and just a note about getting on the stage, we're trying to avoid like that.
Hey,
I guess these are supposed to go on.
Can we wear them how we want them?
would you mind telling Alicia that she doesn't have to stay?
Could we wear them how we
Alicia
want?
the beer now? Oh, yeah. She's over by the orange store.
I thought about it as an opportunity for people to actually help one another do that.
Oh, no, that's an interesting point. So this idea of tying the costume in the back is an opportunity that you're relying on somebody else to help you.
For a costume, it's kind of, it makes more sense to the back.
She invented it. I just, somebody invented it. I don't think so. Or is it just?
Maybe, you know, the people who would run the activation would be familiar with the costumes that they would come and help you.
Okay, so let's, in the interest of time, let's come up on the stage by activators. But just notice, can I have everybody's attention, please? I want to just notice that visitors are not going to step over the reliefs to go on the stage. So we're going to encourage people to come on the stage here, or if you're up the steps and down, or up the ramp, so not stepping over just our safety thing.
So he doesn't bite his here.
So if activators come take another look and then strike your pose. I don't think what I told you.
No, I'm the one saying no. I'm the one saying
Okay, so on the I'm gonna time you for a minute. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. So we're about 30 seconds through, and I want to share with you the word that's associated with this image, and the word is search. So knowing that, I invite you, if you want to change your pose or change your intention. Okay, and breathe. Work your body's another variation that we tried earlier, wait, hold your pose just for another second if you can, is to think of one way that you're feeling or one thing you're thinking in this pose. And you can try to, I'm going to tap you and say your word.
Tired.
bending.
Okay, and I'm going to end it. So, and I think maybe ending them with a little bit of conversation. What was it like to be up there? I don't know. Ohad, I would look to you for suggestions for what you could.
How different did they feel in those costumes?
About what the follow-up conversation, if any. Like, do you have suggestions for how you would kind of conclude that or wrap that up?
Jenny, do you want these handouts that I have with the instructions? I don't know if those are helpful or not.
So maybe what I'm noticing right now is that taking off of the costumes is kind of preventing a conversation from happening. So maybe we should wait a minute before we take them off. Maybe that's one of the
Have
things
the
we wanna
conversation
do
while
with-
we're still in costume.
Yeah, take them off costume.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe it's actually, I mean, I'm an artist model, and 1 minute is a long time to hold a pose, it really is. So
standing for a minute, because you're going to be standing for a minute.
Or maybe making sure visitors know that whatever pose you take,
Okay. Well, and maybe so that for the conversation, is it okay for us to sit on the stage? Because right now I feel awkward because I'm not
So
acting.
we're not necessarily recreating this. If you say you take a pose that you feel comfortable with, I mean, these figures have their arms up here, so I went to that, you know, but that 1 minute, you know, can be a lot. Yeah.
There are a couple of things that require a little bit of time. One of them is understanding how the costumes work, looking at the labels, understanding that this is how I intended, then you do whatever you want with them, but at least you understand, you know.
So this is the correction.
This is the more correct,
Yeah.
or this is closer to the.
I don't see a label.
This needs a little bit, this requires a little bit of time, and then the place where you think about what you're going to be doing should also be giving a little bit of time, like some room to explore, to move around a little bit in the space, and figure out, and then asking if everybody is ready with the pose, and then people should come up one at a time to the stage. In my version, no, you're doing great, and we're kind of learning because we haven't done it before. In my version, I'm interested in this, like the fact that it's tough to stand a minute.
So you don't want to make it, you don't want to make it, you don't necessarily want to make it easier
No,
for
but
us.
you want, I mean, there needs to be some sort of struggle in it, even to stay mentally in the space. And actually, you know, I would want you to start with at least a minute. So if you want to take it for other things, and make it more into a theater workshop type of thing, and do, it's okay. I would let this one dramatic minute of quiet time and let this reverberate and be in this space where half of the group is watching and half of the group is standing, is the thing that needs to reverberate. You could have, I think private conversations is the best way. I wouldn't move on to a group conversation after that. People would ask questions, but it ends.
What do you mean by private conversation?
You know, one-on-one, if you want to ask, talk to your friend, could take it, talk to, you want to ask this person how he felt. I don't want to end it with, filling up a form of, so how did that feel? Or, you got your friend, that felt stupid. That's the right form to do that.
I'm getting the impression that it's really not only about that minute. It starts when people stand up and say, I want to be part of this.
Yeah.
And maybe if we kind of put that in people's head, because I think there was so much focus on that minute, getting ready for it, but maybe more of an awareness of the getting ready.
The whole process of choosing to be here or not to be here, understanding this, and then even that minute is still an empty minute. It's the stuff around it. But stuff happens around it.
Creation, creating something.
I think that for me, I'm a dancer, so for me that wasn't hard. It was, in fact, what the hardest part was that I was holding pose, and I know that I was not really finding the meaning. But I wanted to say that for some groups, you might want to not talk while they're holding a pose.
Yeah,
because I felt that's what
important.
bothered me. I was trying to find what this meant to me, and I couldn't find it. I just was finding, okay, I can hold my arms up for a long time, so it doesn't matter.
You need to give
There'll be
this
more of that
time.
silence.
You need to give this time. You need to give this time to understand the costumes and to figure out which, and you want to help people choose out the right one and, dress it. That's a part of it. And give that time. That's a really important thing too.
And you talked about the moment of silence.
And
then
being in that moment and not necessarily answering the question afterwards. Letting it stay as a question, that means that people might talk about it.
The people are going to be coming in and out of the gallery, even if they're not participating in
Luckily,
this.
museums are not that insanely busy.
Ours is. Ours is.
So people might be walking in at some point. That's not ideal, but I think we can handle that.
We have to leave the gallery now in terms of letting our security go. So Tour guides, if you want to stay, we have 30 minutes of like time to talk if you want to keep talking and staying and discussing. So we can go to the classrooms.
Do you need us?